Yo guys, it's Tyron and welcome back to another Super Mario Odyssey speedrun tutorial. This time we're gonna take a look at a more advanced trick, Pipeway clip, or how I like to call it, Pipes clip. This trick involves you clipping into the wall using the first moon of the sub-area, thus skipping the cycle that awaits you below and saving about 4 seconds over the fastest movement without clipping. As this is a pretty complex trick, I would suggest it only after you're consistent at getting the backup cycle if you fail the clip, which involves going pretty fast at the beginning of the sub-area. And if you can't do that, then this clip isn't really for you yet, and maybe come back when you have a better understanding of movement. But if you just want to learn the clip for fun and you don't want to do it in runs, then this doesn't really apply to you and you can keep watching. Personally, I would only suggest people at around the sub-hour level or below to learn this trick, unless you're really good at the beginning after watching the video and can just get the backup cycle consistently. But if you can't do that, then don't bother. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get started. Before getting to the clip, I will teach you a couple of ways of going fast enough for the backup cycle. This one starts off with a quick spin pound and then a long jump as soon as Mario is over this shadow from the cone above. If you don't get the long jump off, then it means that you're either spin pounding too slow or long jumping late. Either way, once you land on the water from the long jump, you want to do one small hop, then followed by another one, and finally you want to do a mid-sized jump to get out of the water, while making sure you're not too much above the dots in the background. And then you also want to cap throw when you're right below where the ceiling ends here. After that, you want to dive as quickly as possible on Cappy. And once you do bounce on him, you also want to make sure you lose a little bit of speed by rubbing against the wall. And then dive on top here, while also buffering a spin pound as you're landing. You then want to jump after the pound, go left, wall kick, and then dive up, while also making sure you hold back slightly on the stick after diving, so that you can land on this line right here on the ground, or as close to it as possible anyways. Okay, that's method 1 to get on top of here. Let's take a look at method 2 now. This other method is basically the same as the last one, except that it starts off with a neutral roll, long jump, and not a spin pound. You also want to make sure to long jump right before the shadow of the coin, because you don't have as much speed as the spin pound version. Everything else is the same as the spin pound strat though, so you can look at the other section before this one for the rest. Method 3 is slightly easier than what I normally do, as it avoids the fuzzes that can damage you, but it is also slightly slower by around 0.2 or so optimally. So you still get most of the time save anyway, and more importantly, you can still make the backup cycle. You can begin with either a spin pound or the neutral roll, that doesn't matter. But as soon as you land on the water though, you want to do a small hop, followed by a big hop, and once Mario reaches the end of this part of the ceiling, you want to initiate a cap throw. Then dive and bounce neutrally on Cappy, but quickly switch to holding left, so that you go towards the wall. You then want to wall jump, wait a bit, and then cap throw, dive towards the center, and buffer a spin pound. The rest is the same as the other examples. Alternately, if you don't like the spin pound at the center, you can switch it out with a side flip instead. Here is how it looks like. You just have to make sure you hold back at the wall kick up top before diving, otherwise you're going to bonk on the opposite side of the wall. Alright, that's all for method 3 and the alternative side flip. Let's get to the clip now. Once on top, we're going to do a small neutral jump and then start holding right when Mario begins to fall down from the air. Once you land on the ground, you want to do another small jump, and when you land for the third, you also want to delay it as much as possible, and then you want to do a mid-sized triple jump. Not a big one, not a small one, but a mid one. This is probably one of the hardest and least consistent parts of the setup, but you will get used to it eventually. Once Mario is airborne, you want him to almost reach the wall in front of him, but then you want to start holding left and cap throw at the same time. If everything went correctly, Mario will be pushed into the wall, and if you see his shadow more than halfway into the wall, then it most likely worked. If you feel like you've clipped out of bounds, then you can just hold right and cap throw, bounce, and dive onto the moon. And that's my setup for the clip. Other one exists, but this is what I personally do. Now we're going to take a look at some of the possible mistakes that you might encounter, and also at the backup cycle when you fail. The first one is the most common mistake: going too far up at the triple jump, and that means you simply held the B or the A button too much, and Mario did a full-size the triple jump instead of a mid one. Pay attention to your jump presses as much as possible to fix this one. For the second mistake, if you see Cappy going to the left When you're on top of the moon, then it simply means that you cap throw too early and you need to wait slightly more to get the clip. If you touch the moon during the triple jump, even before you can try to cap throw, then that means you did a small jump instead of a mid one. This one is also one of the most common mistakes for me. For the last mistake, I decided to include the most annoying one, the fake clip. If you feel like you've done everything right and Mario's shadow is in the wall, but you still get pushed back in bounds, then it most likely means that you've started going right too soon during the first jump. This one is very hard to spot and it may happen a lot, especially at the beginning. You just have to remember to delay going to the right only when Mario starts to fall down and not before. Let's take a look at the backup cycle for when you fail the clip now. First things first. You only have one try for the clip. If you fail it more than once, then you can't make the backup cycle. And now you will lose even more time. So make sure to try it only one time. Even if you do get it second try, you will only save like 1 second, so it's not really worth it. Alright, let's say you triple jump too low. Now what? If you have Cappy, you can then simply cap throw to the left and then dive. But if you don't, then you can simply just buffer a spin pound before landing. Then going left and just do the cycle this way. If it looks familiar, it's because this is the classic beginner cycle that everyone learns for the flooded Pipeway. Well, that's all you need to know for Pipeway clip. But as a bonus, I want to teach you guys the fastest flooded Pipeway cycle that doesn't involve doing the clip. It saves about 1.5 seconds over the beginner cycle, but it's really hard. So this is only for those of you that just can't get the clip consistent at all, but are also below sub-hour still. Okay, so here's what you need to do. The beginning movement is the same as the Pipeway clip cycle, so you can use either of the two methods for it. The differences start after the spin pound jump at the center. Instead of holding back after the wall kick, you just want to dive on top and roll boost long jump towards the moon. After that, you want to cap for a dive to the left and do a return jump. As you're about to fall down, start holding right and dive neutral once you grab this coin. Keep holding neutral until you start sinking and then start moving to the right below the fuzzies. Then you want to dive very quickly and then dive again to squeeze right above the fuzzies in the middle and below the ones at the end. You then want to wall kick up and dive onto the moon. It's very easy to mess up this cycle by either going too fast or too slow, so it might take a while before you can do it consistently. And that's all for this video. I have recorded a bunch of clips for other tricks as well, and hopefully I can make those tutorials as well in the near future. But I just have to stop being lazy, that's all. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And make sure to follow me on Twitch as well to see the any % world record attempts. I'm usually live at around 3 PM Central Europe time for about 5 days a week most of the time. Well, thank you all for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye!